Why would you want to emulate in CGI a lens characteristic that we see in live-action films? Well, for the same reason we spend time adding tiny scratches on a doorbell, skin pores to a character, hair particles to a fabric material, or bevel edges to a perfectly sharp object. We want to achieve realism. But trying to achieve a lens in 3D is not just about realism. We also want to tell a story, and just like in live-action films, where depending on what the director wants to tell we find different lens choices, lighting, we want to be able to have those options as well in 3D. Because these visual decisions have an emotional impact in the audience, even if it is at a subconscious level. Well, we can't just rent a virtual anamorphic lens. That doesn't exist. But we can at least try to emulate some of its visual characteristics. Hello everyone, how are you? I'm Luciana, this is my YouTube channel 24 horses per second, and today I'm going to show you how to achieve this anamorphic oval bokeh in both Cycles and Eevee in Blender, and also how to get this anamorphic distortion only in Cycles. As you can see, we have some oval bokeh, typical in anamorphic lenses, and I also added some distortion, which can be more subtle or more pronounced depending on the lens. There are other characteristics to anamorphic lenses, such as the aspect ratio, the softness or reduced sharpness, especially on the size of the images or focus fall-off, organic focus roll-off, the breathing, the lateral horizontal lens flares, but we're not gonna cover that today. There's also some distortion in spherical lenses, by the way, depends on the lens, the focal length. Basically, all lenses have some kind of distortion. This is a live-action technique for the obvious reason that we don't have exchangeable lenses with their specific visual characteristics in 3D. But in the search for realism and storytelling, we try to emulate live-action visuals in CGI. Just like in Toy Story 4, where they emulated an anamorphic lens and even added new code to the rendering software that allowed to choose a texture image for the blur instead of using a perfect circle, so they could get an imperfect, realistic cut-off bokeh as well. Or in the Lego Movie, where Color Pipeline lead and compositor for this movie Alex Fry developed a kit to achieve the anamorphic look in Nook. Okay, first, some things to take notice when we want to achieve certain bokeh effect or blurred background effect. Keep in mind the distance between the camera, the subject, and the background. If you're not getting the effect you want, try getting the background closer or further from the subject. Also, in this case, I tried different sizes out for the trees until I liked what I saw. And I also tried different distances between the trees and this plane. I added this plane to give the idea that there's sky behind these trees, and my plane is actually an emissive plane and has different colors and intensities because I also wanted to simulate the blown out highlights of the sky to make it look a bit more realistic, and there's also some green to give the idea there's some leaves as well. And it might look weird with these stripes, but in camera view mode with the bokeh you can see the different colors and strengths. Now I'm gonna show you my camera settings for this 3D render, and then I'm gonna show you other interesting options. To achieve this distortion, we need to be in Cycles and change our lens to fisheye equisolid and control the amount of distortion with the ratio. I know that the fisheye wouldn't be our first choice when it comes to portraits, and a 100mm fisheye is basically an oxymoron, but that's how I got the distortion. Then a really unrealistic wide aperture to get a really blurred background, and I just chose 12 blades. Now let's go to the render preview mode to see the distortion in action. Let's only preview region because it's a pretty heavy scene, and with 1.5 we get a subtle distortion, but with a 3 for example it's way more distorted. Now let's change our lens to the usual, which is perspective, and now we don't have that distortion, but we still have that bokeh. Let's compare both renders. Let's see other settings as well. We could even get creative and have a triangular kind of bokeh. A pentagon, a hexagon, and now let me show you that this also works in Eevee. Let's see other settings as well. Let's see some comparison with the same settings in Cycles and Eevee. And that's pretty much all for today's video. I hope you have liked this kind of content. Let me know if you would like me to cover more live action techniques and how to achieve them in 3D. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!